I now call to order the January 7, 2021 business meeting. County Administrator Gary Schmidt, would you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you, Chair Smith. To begin first, our staff support today, Christina Twilliger, Clerk to the Board, Stephen Madcore, County Counsel. Roll call, Commissioner Fisher.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Shull.
Here.
On Zoom, Commissioner Savas.
Here.
Chair Smith.
Here. I will now lead the Pledge of Allegiance. All stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, and liberty for justice and all.
Justice for all.
Thank you very much. As the newly elected chair of Clackamas County Board of Commissioners, I want to thank all constituents who live in Clackamas County. I so look forward to serving you and listening to your opinions as I invite your participation. I honor my fellow commissioners and cherish our service together as we work collaboratively on challenging issues that lie before us. Together, we will lead Clackamas County into prosperity and become the county where people want to live, work, and play. Today, you will notice that commissioners are live on the fourth floor hearing room after a 9-month absence. This hearing room and all county buildings have been generously paid for by taxpayers. COVID protocols will be observed as distancing requirements are used for all staff as well as the public who wish to testify in person. A hybrid Zoom model will be used for anyone who does not want to come into the building to testify. But please be patient, as this is the first time in use and we are still working out the bugs. Public agencies are exempt from being closed during the pandemic extreme risk category, according to Governor Brown's own executive orders. With that in mind, I would like to remind all participants, including staff, all elected officials, and members of the public, that Robert's Rules of Order will be enforced in business meetings, policy sessions, and executive sessions when applicable. We are holding this meeting both virtually and in person. If you've joined us on Zoom app for this meeting and you are interested in providing public comment, we will prompt you regarding how to do that when the time is right. Alternatively, anyone can send a comment to be read during public portion of our meeting over email to bcc@clackamas.us. Be sure to include your name and area when you email. The board welcomes public opinions from all points of view. We encourage the public to testify respectfully and to adhere to our 3-minute time limit. Now we are on to the presentation portion of this meeting. Administrator Gary Schmidt.
Thank you, Chair Smith. The first presentation today is selection of the Board of County Commissioners Vice Chair for 2021. I will lead this presentation. Commissioners, as you know, at the first regular business meeting of each calendar year, the board will appoint a vice chair who will serve in the absence of the chair when the chair is not available. This position is normally rotated between the 4 other county commissioners, and this serves at the pleasure of the commission, and the commission makes that appointment. At your issue session earlier this week, you did agree that Commissioner Savas would serve in the vice chair role. He is next up for rotation, and he has accepted that appointment. So today is a chance to formally adopt and select Commissioner Paul Savas as Vice Chair for the Board of County Commissioners for calendar year 2021.
Thank you, Gary. And do the commissioners have any qualifying comments or questions about the appointment?
Nope. I will move that we appoint Commissioner Savas as Vice Chair, and thank you, Commissioner Savas, for your service.
And I will second that motion.
The motion has been moved by Commissioner Fisher and has been seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Is there any further discussion? Are there any hands raised on Zoom?
Chair, just thank you for the opportunity, just to say a few words. Thank you for the opportunity to serve as Vice Chair. As you stated, we have done as practice is rotate that every 4 years. totally willing to adhere to that and maintain that rotation and process. And I'm pleased to have the honor of being the vice chair in the next 12 months. So pleasure to serve, and thank you for the nomination and the second. And look forward to an exciting new year.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Christina, would you call a roll poll, please?
Yes, Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
and Chair Smith.
Thank you. The motion has been approved. Gary, would you like to introduce the next item, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair Smith. Next is under wildfire update, approval of an addendum number 1 to Board Order number 2020-71, declaring a state of an emergency and declaring emergency measures for abatement of hazardous waste and debris removal. Stephen Madcore, County Counsel, will present.
Thank you, Administrator Schmidt. Good morning, Commissioners. You will recall that in the wake of the wildfires that affected Clackamas County earlier last summer and fall, on October 8th of 2020, the board adopted an emergency declaration for debris management. That was in result of the damage caused by the wildfires themselves. That allows for the county to receive FEMA and other dollars in its effort to clean up the damage caused by the wildfires. That emergency declaration is set to expire tomorrow. What we have before you is an addendum to that emergency declaration, and it was presented to you earlier this week in conversation, and this extends it until December 31st of 2021. That will allow this board not to have to revisit this matter unless it chose earlier to terminate the declaration of emergency. All prior emergency measures concerning debris management and hazardous waste removal remain in effect, and it will be until December 31st, 2021. Does the board have any questions for me?
So basically, Mr. Madcore, it's just a one-year extension.
It is.
Okay,
You could
good.
always lift it earlier if the emergency ceased to exist.
Great, thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions or comments about this? Any questions on Zoom?
No hands are raised.
Okay, I will entertain a motion. Mark?
Chair Smith, I move we approve the addendum number 1, Board Order number 2020-71, declaring a state of emergency and declaring emergency measures for abatement of hazardous waste and debris removal.
Second.
The motion has been moved by Commissioner Scholl and seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Any further discussion? Christina, would you take the poll, please?
Absolutely. Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Commissioner Savas?
I see him coming on.
Okay, we might just have a
Aye.
slight delay.
There we go.
Thank you.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
and Chair Smith.
Aye, and the motion has been approved. Up next is public comment. Anybody wishing to testify, please go through the procedure. The board welcomes public opinions from all points of view. Please be respectful and civil when giving your comment. Personal insults and language that is not appropriate on live TV will not be accepted. Christina, would you please moderate this portion?
Thank you, Chair Smith. Now is the time for general comment related to any county business. If you have comment related to the county business, you can use the raise hand feature on Zoom. Or if you're calling in by phone and want to give comment, please hit *9 now. I'll give people a few seconds to do that. We do have one in-person comment. If Les Poole would like to come up. Good morning, Les. And you have 3 minutes.
Good to be back. I appreciate all the efforts it's taken to carefully reopen the county. I'm Les Poole. I'm a kind of a fixture here in the past, and you'll probably hear from me again. I have some thoughts to share today. One of them is I hope that the folks watching and the commission and staff and others caught the letter to the editor that was in the Clackamas Review that I submitted a couple of weeks ago, and I titled it that the voters sent a strong message. And the editor at the Clackamas Review said that the voters changed the title of it to the voters sent a strong anti-Metro message. And I think they did send an anti-Metro message. And I think that that message needs to be understood because everything Metro's doing isn't wrong, but it was very clear that some of Metro's policies and their abhorrent handling of the transportation measure were an indication of them being out of touch. And so I think it's really, really important that we preserve our relationship with Metro, but that we stand up for Clackamas County more firmly in the future. Metro seems to operate in the dark, and it's beyond me how every Thursday at 2 o'clock they meet in a little private bubble and make tremendous decisions that affect our lives. So I hope the public starts paying closer attention to Metro, because you can bet Metro's paying attention to you. The other thing I wanted to mention is that there's been a lot of confusion, a lot of misquotes about what Chair Smith's position and other folks' positions is on what I describe as overkill. The last public meeting here, the last time we had a live meeting, I was here and an emergency declaration was declared and the building was understandably shut down. And when I spoke, I so remember saying that we're going to experience some overkill. And that's what we're experiencing now. And I'm hearing that, in fact, I heard from former Chair Bernard that Ms. Smith thinks that the pandemic and COVID is a hoax. I've read in the newspaper that the folks that are questioning the governors and the state's overkill are just a bunch of loons. They don't care. And that's complete nonsense. One person who has stood out is the mayor of Sandy, and I'll conclude with a couple of thoughts. One of them is the mayor is recommending that we go back to the status we had in mid-November before the governor decided that we could only have 6 people for Thanksgiving. And so I will just conclude with, I would appreciate, and on behalf of the citizens, hearing more and more from the board in their comments at the end of the meeting to clarify their positions, because these are very difficult times, and the last thing we need is more confusion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Les Poole, and for the record, I never said that COVID was a hoax. I do consider it to be quite serious. As you can see, I wear a mask, and I wear a mask wherever it's been required. I observe all the protocols involved in that. Administrator Schmidt, would you like to introduce the next item? I don't see anybody else, is there?
We have more.
Oh, I'm sorry, let's go ahead.
Okay, so I have Chris Waller on Zoom. I went ahead and moved you over, Chris. Go ahead and unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Chris Waller, Jennings Lodge. Commissioners, thank you for your time. There are 2 things that can stop the coronavirus pandemic in Clackamas County. In the short term, social distancing and wearing masks. In the long term, we need 70% or more of the population to get vaccinated. It would seem to me that the only acceptable stance of a Clackamas County Commissioner would be to support reality. Yet your new chair, Tootie Smith, has been outspoken in her opposition to common sense measures. Tootie claims that we need to open up everything now in the name of saving businesses and stopping depression. The truth is that fully opening up businesses does not equal saving them. People will not go back to shopping and dining until they feel safe. Most surveys have found that 60 to 70% of respondents will not dine out in restaurants, for example, until the curve flattens. And the share who will go to the gym or movies is even smaller. As for depression, studies published in the Journal of the American Medical Association show clearly that those who are having the worst mental outcomes during COVID are those who are most impacted by having to deal with its stressors: frontline workers, people of color, lower income folks. At the Salem Women for Trump rally, which was advertised on Facebook with the screed, "We are done with the phony mask mandate. The tyranny has got to stop." Tootie stated that COVID has a 99% survival rate. Fear is driving the bus. She called for herd immunity, saying that we all need to go out and get coronavirus. Let's do some simple math, Tootie. Scientists at the World Health Organization estimate that if herd immunity for COVID works at all, 80 to 95% of the population would have to get it. There are about 420,000 people in Clackamas County. So if we followed your deadly policy, almost 4,000 people would die. Uncounted thousands more would suffer long-term health effects, job loss, and other disasters. And none of this would help businesses or mental health. Tootie also encouraged the anti-vaccination crowd by shouting, "Who will get it?" to cheers of, "Not me, not me." You know what would be truly brave, Tootie? When that crowd shouted out their opposition to vaccination, you could have countered it with fact and encouraged them to get vaccinated. Can she possibly be the same person who once wrote, "Much bad information is spread on social media about not vaccinating, and you do not have the right to infect"? But she was writing about measles and not COVID. By the way, Tootie, I'm not sure if you are aware that the mortality rate for measles is 1/6 to 1/10 that of COVID. Commissioners, I call on you to take a stand. Please make a public statement that you do not support someone whose official role is the voice of the county, making misleading statements that only further inflame the partisan divide that is what stands between us and the ability to truly conquer COVID and return to a life where all are
Okay,
safe
Chris, I'm
and
sorry,
well.
I'm going to have to cut you off there. It's 3 minutes. Thank you for your comment.
Christine, for me, the sound was fading in and out, and I did not really hear it. Is there any way that we can turn that up a little bit more?
I can try and turn it up, yes.
I want a point of correction here. Today, after this meeting, I'm going to do a public service announcement video about the status of vaccines in our county, and anyone who wants to have a vaccine should be able to have the vaccine. I'm sorry this person chose to misrepresent and spread misinformation about my positions and about what other people have said about me. Thank you.
Okay, we have one more hand raised. Christine Kennedy, go ahead and unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you for your time today and the work that you do on behalf of the citizens of Clackamas County. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I have lived in Clackamas County and Lake Oswego for 7 years. During her first meeting as chair of the Board of Commissioners, Ms. Tootie Smith asked the commissioners if they had read her peer-reviewed white paper on reopening Clackamas County. There are 2 versions on her website, one titled Summary of a Draft to Reopen Clackamas County, Combating COVID-19, that was written in May 8th, 2020. There's a link to a longer document. There are no references to scientific source documents, with the exception of Science Magazine related to her wastewater testing proposal. There is no evidence that this is a peer-reviewed document. OHA is a single resource for her data, and I've read actually both of these several times. Observation and comments. This data is from May of 2020. And my recommendations, and the recommendations that are in the white paper were based on that data, the conclusions. Data has not been updated to current on her website. This is easily available from the OHA website. I've had extensive experience in organizational change management and policy development. The expectation and best practice is that recommendations and decisions are always made with the most current data and any lessons learned. Much has happened and much has been learned about this virus and its impact since May of 2020. And I'll just hit some high points. Safety and hygiene measures. In the condensed version, the advice is to comply with safety measures. It really is silent about wearing masks. And as we know, masks are a mandate in the state, and we've learned a lot since May about the spread through droplets and airborne. Decline in growth rate. Again, we've used a data point from May of 2020. which really doesn't really add any value when you look at some of the following recommendations. Robust testing. With all due respect, as a healthcare consumer, my observation is that Oregon has never had robust testing. There's been wider spread of virus in Oregon since May, as well in the US and globally. And it's commonly understood by professionals that the more a virus spreads, the more it mutates. OHA has done a yeoman's job trying to collect and display test results and other data in a user-friendly format. Now we've had 2 more contagious strains, not necessarily more deadly, but more contagious in the US. The need for genomic testing is even more important now. Demographics, there was nothing in the report that said anything about citizens
Okay, Christine,
of color.
unfortunately, you have reached 3 minutes.
All righty, thank
Thank
you.
you.
My letter's been submitted and I would just encourage you all to read it. Thank you for your hard work and I want us to work together in a coordinated, collaborative approach. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And that
Thank you,
is
Miss
Christine Kennedy.
And
she did
As we
email-
know, the information on COVID is changing. That paper I wrote was peer-reviewed by several doctors. As I have said repeatedly on social media and in opinion pieces, updated information on COVID as the county moves forward in opening for the public and opening cautiously for our employees. We will be using all protocols, all safety protocols, and we will be listening to public health officials as I have in the past, and I want to thank you for your opinion.
And Christine did also send in an email that I won't read because she's already testified orally, but I will send the commission that email so that you are able to read it. Now I have 3 emails to read to conclude the public communication. This email is from Ellen Burns. She lives in Gladstone. She wishes to speak on behalf of her friend Joanne, who died in West Lynn of complications from COVID-19 infection, and my cousin Louise, who died on Christmas Eve, 2 days following the death of her husband of the same. Although their deaths are added to the statistics, I ask that you consider that they and others who have died are loved individuals. Many people who have survived the disease continue to suffer from long-term debility. As a registered nurse, I also advocate for nurses, doctors, aides, interns, and ancillary personnel who are weary of caring for COVID-19 patients who are ill because they or others did not follow the clear, simple, and easily doable steps to curb the virus. Wear a mask, wash your hands frequently for at least 20 seconds, maintain a 6-foot distance from others not in your household, stay at home except for essential needs if you must gather in small groups with one other household. The Board of County Commissioners has supported these measures, and I urge you to continue to follow the science, even as we see the prospect of potentially widespread vaccination on the horizon. With prevention so close at hand, further unnecessary deaths are especially heartbreaking. The Clackamas County Public Health Department, which reports this to the board, needs the support of all of us to continue to do the overwhelming job of tracking this lethal disease and preventing future spread. Cooperation in these matters can save lives, including the people you love. Thank you.
Christine, thank you. Ellen Burns, as a registered nurse, we are employing all of the recommendations she said, plus many more.
Excellent. I have Elizabeth Burke next. She says, happy 2021 and welcome Tudy Smith as the new chair. Chair Smith, you have stepped into the role at a challenging time for Oregonians and the country. You have arrived in this role after campaigning on a platform of accountability and transparency. I have read the updated requirements for the public comments for business meetings, and I understand that the comments need to pertain to county business and not personal matters. I believe those words of county leadership, especially in public, qualify as very important county business. In that spirit, I would like to ask you about the rally you attended on January 1st in Salem. At that rally, you identified yourself as the chair of Clackamas County Commission and therefore assume you were there in an official capacity. This rally was in support of opening Oregon in the face of a raging virus that is decimating families and communities across the state. Present at the rally in Salem were members of the group like the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys, the organization that on January 6th staged a righteous coup at the United States Capitol. You also posted on your social media account images and stories in support of armed volunteers backing Oregon businesses who defy the public health orders. Given that event on the last day, can we expect that you will continue to attend rallies with these groups on behalf of Clackamas County? Do you condemn these actions of the people who stormed the U.S. Capitol yesterday? And do you now condemn the groups who cheered you on January 1st? Additionally, what part will you play in turning down the temperature of political upheaval? I respectfully look forward to your response. Elizabeth Burke, Oak Grove.
Thank you, Christine. I want to thank Ms. Burke for spreading more disinformation and lies regarding my position on January 1st. I was not speaking as my public official capacity because I did not take office until January 4th. Regarding violence, I've never condoned violence whatsoever. In fact, on my Facebook page, I said it is not acceptable in any way, in any form. What happened happened about 3 hours after this rally had ended, where I and other speakers spoke. I also said I do not think it's appropriate for any person in the general public to riot a person's home. I did not like and I did not support the walk on Mahonia Hall, where our governor lives. Even though I may disagree with her on policy, I believe all elected people's homes are sacred and they should be respected by everybody, especially if the public expects to be respected by the officials. As far as the violence in the Capitol yesterday, my heart has never broken more upon the 4 deaths that occurred, upon the damage to the building, and upon the attempt to intimidate our senators and our House of Representative members to vote or do a certain way over a public opinion or over an election. My heart breaks. There is no place for that in our country. There's no place for the riots in Portland that have been allowed to happen month after month after month. I do not support violence whatsoever. Anybody who knows me my entire life understands that position. And as we move forward with Clackamas County, we will do it in the safest, most possible, peaceful way. And I really look forward to representing all Clackamas County residents. Thank you, Christine.
I have one last email. This one is from Kevin Moss. He's a resident of Damascus. He says, "Good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. I would like to offer congratulations and welcome Commissioner Smith back to the Board of Commissioners. This time as chair, I will look forward to working with you and helping to make our county a wonderful place to live, work, and do business. Congratulations on your re-election, Commissioner Schrader. Thank you for all your support and work on behalf of all the residents. And congratulations and welcome to Commissioner Scholl. The county is a very welcoming place with great employees, and I know that you will do your best, they will do their best to help you get all the information you need to make the best decisions for the county and all residents. Please reach out if there's anything I can do to help assist you or the county on its mission." And that is the end of public communication.
Chair Smith,
Martha.
I would just like to, can I just say something about?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
You know, we do have the buttons are available
Oh,
again.
yeah, you know.
And I'm learning how to use them too. But, you know, go ahead. You're in the queue. Go ahead.
Okay. Kevin, just thank you for that. I've always enjoyed working with you, and I think you're a wonderful young man. And I know you're doing very well in Washington County, and I hope you come visit us sooner than later. But you are sorely missed. But I'm so glad that you've taken a bigger step towards what you want to be doing in your life and your career. So good luck, buddy. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. Are there any other comments from commissioners? Thank you. Yeah.
Chair Smith, I'd just like to say thank you to Kevin Moss for those kind words. And I also like to say to the people of Clackamas County that my observation of Chair Smith is that she is truly concerned about every single citizen in this county. I've never seen any other attitude towards the county other than one of absolute concern. So to everybody in the county, I think those of you who might have some concerns right now, I think in the next few weeks, you're going to be much more relaxed and assured that the Board of Commissioners is on the right track for all your concerns. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. And Kevin Moss, thank you for those kind words. Gary, would you like to introduce the next item?
Yes, Chair Smith, we are moving to our first public hearing today, which is approval of a board order for boundary change proposal CL 20-001, annexation to Clackamas County Service District Number 1. We have Ken Martin, who is our boundary consultant, to present. I assume he's online. Is that true, Christina?
I do not see him.
Okay, is he in the room, Ken? No. Stephen, are you prepared to do this, or should we bump it?
I would recommend bumping it. You know, Ken is our boundary expert, and we hire him for those particular purposes. And what this is, Commissioners, it's a boundary expansion for the Clackamas Service District Number 1, which is our wastewater treatment district. But Ken is our boundary expert, and I would prefer that he be lead on this. He contacted us earlier today, and I'm not entirely sure what the...
If I can make a recommendation, we'll just put this on hold. Somebody give him a call to come over, and we can revisit it later in the agenda, and we can move on. I would like to see this piece of business completed today.
Let's do that. I'll try to reach him
So
right
if
now.
anybody, staff out there listening, please give him a call, and we will wait for him, but we will continue, Gary.
Excellent, excellent. Yes, thank you. Next chair is board discussion items, and if I may tee this up. So normally on your agenda, you would have a consent agenda, which are staff items that while there's a staff report provided, there's no discussion because they are items that are normally contract approvals or intergovernmental agreement approvals that are pretty non-controversial, just part of the normal course of business as county government. With Chair Smith's agreement, I had suggested for at least the first few meetings of the new board year, let's make them discussion items so that all of our new board and current commissioners know exactly what they're approving before they approve it. And then over time, we will start to put items back on the consent agenda. But for today, we're going to do discussion items for topics that normally would have been a consent agenda topic. There are 19 of them. So what I've asked staff to do is to expect that the board has already read the staff report. So I've asked directors from these departments to please come forward and to give really quick 5-minute verbal updates and then answer board questions, and we can move through these items as quickly or slowly as you choose, Chair Smith. So with that, we will start with the first board discussion item, and these first items are all from the Department of Health, Housing, and Human Services, and Rich Swift, the Director of Health, Housing, and Human Services, will present them all. Thank you for doing that, Rich. The first one is approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the State of Oregon, Department of Consumer and Business Services, Senior Health Insurance Benefits Assistance Program, or SHIBA. Rich, would you please present?
Sure. Thank you, Gary. Good morning, Chair Smith, and to the commissioners, and just want to say it's very nice to see you again, Chair Smith. It's been a while.
Thank you, Rich. It's good to see you as well.
Yeah, thank you. So I have 18 items in front of you, I believe, and I will try and be quick and endeavor, so maybe when Kevin gets back and shows up, you guys can do your boundary discussion. So as Gary said, regarding SHIBA, this is a grant for $6,500 revenue. And what SHIBA does is essentially outreach and education for individuals who are eligible for low-income subsidy or Medicare saving programs related to their health care. The outreach focuses on rural, Hispanic, and tribal communities. So what we're trying to do with this work is get as much increased healthcare access to communities that do not have the type of access we feel they should have.
Thank you.
And actually, just to add, there's no match and there's no general fund associated with these dollars.
No general fund. Commissioners have any questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Chair Smith, I move approval.
Do we need
Have
to
my
read the entire motion, or is that good enough?
That is fine
Okay,
for this
thank
purpose,
you.
yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Schrader has moved, and Commissioner Fisher has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Christina, please call the roll.
Okay, Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Perfect. Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
And Chair Smith?
Aye, and the motion is approved. Next up.
Stephen, do you have a comment?
Yes. Chair Smith, I have Ken Martin on the telephone, on my telephone. I'm going to put him up to my microphone, okay?
Okay, did he misunderstand something today, or?
He has some technical issues. He's off-site, and he has a computer, but apparently does not have a camera.
Uh-oh.
So, Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Christina, we ready?
Well, let me introduce it. So if you don't mind, Rich, pause. Commissioners, we're going back to public hearing. This is approval of a board order for a boundary change proposal, CL 20-001, annexation to Clackamas County Service District Number 1. Ken Martin is our boundary consultant. He's on a cell phone. He will present via phone.
Thank you. Ken Martin, we have the Board of County Commissioners here, and I'm going to hold you up to the microphone, and you will walk us through this process, okay?
Okay.
You may proceed.
Okay. What we have here is a single lot annexation to CCSD number 1. This is inside the city of Happy Valley. It's a developed property. It needs sewer service. The district, through its contract with Water Environment Services, has a line in the street available, and we'd recommend approval.
Is that it? Is that all for Ken Martin's presentation?
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Martin?
Are there any hands raised on Zoom?
It does not look like it.
Okay.
Okay.
I will open a public,
I will move for approval.
Second.
Well, this is a public hearing,
This is a public
Commissioner, so you should
hearing.
have the public comment first, please.
Okay.
So if Chair Smith, you'd like to open the public hearing, please.
yes, I'll open the public hearing and ask for Christina to moderate this portion.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Chair Smith. Now's the time for comment on this specific hearing. If anyone has a comment, you can use the raise hand feature on Zoom, or if you're calling in by phone, you would hit *9 now. I do not have any emails in our bcc.clackamas.us or at clackamas.us, and I'm not seeing any hands raised, Chair.
Thank you. I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
I move we approve the board order for boundary change proposal CL 20-001, annexation to Clackamas County Service District Number 1.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Schrader and seconded by Commissioner Fisher. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. Any further discussion? Christina, please call the poll.
Okay, Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, and the motion has passed.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you. This is one of those little,
Aye.
thank you, Ken Martin and Stephen Madcourt. This is one of the little glitches I referred to, and we're going to have them. You know, this is a new procedure for all of us. I just want to remind all presenters that they must appear, all staff, department heads must appear in person as we move forward to this. But you know what? He may not have got the memo on that, Gary.
Well, he's not a county staff member. He's a consultant.
Well, no wonder.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's okay. We got her done, right? Gary, would you please continue?
Thank you, Chair Smith. All right, we're returning back to board discussion items. We're with Health, Housing, and Human Services. Item 2, approval of a grant renewal agreement from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, supportive housing program for the Housing Our Families project for the purpose of providing permanent supportive housing to families. Rich, please go ahead.
Thank you. So this is, once again, with our Social Services Division. And what this does is expands our housing assistance, supportive services, and case management to approximately 15 households annually. The grant requires a 25% match of in-kind contribution, and this is met through state emergency housing account funds, so there's no general fund associated with this. And And so I'm open to questions at this point. And these services are provided by Social Services Division staff.
Do the commissioners have any clarifying questions or comments? I'll call for a motion.
I move for approval of a grant renewal agreement from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, Supportive Housing Program for the Housing Our Families Project for the purpose of providing permanent supportive housing to families.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Schrader and seconded by Commissioner Fisher. Any further discussion? Christina, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, and the motion has been moved.
All right. Item number 3, approval of amendment number 1 to a federal sub-recipient grant agreement with Clackamas Women's Services for emergency shelter services. Go ahead, Rich.
Okay, thank you. Still with social services. And so this amendment increases funding to Clackamas Women's Services to provide emergency shelter and connection to permanent housing resources for houseless individuals, families who are survivors of domestic violence. So this increase actually brings the amount for CWS, Clackamas Women's Services, to $82,827. And there is no general fund associated with this.
Thank you, Rich Swift. Commissioners have any further questions or comments? Can I have a motion?
I move for approval of amendment number 1 to a federal sub-recipient grant agreement with Clackamas Women's Services for emergency shelter services.
Second.
The motion has been moved by Commissioner Schrader and seconded by Commissioner Fisher. Any further discussion? Christina, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, and the motion has been approved. Gary.
Item 4, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Sandy, Oregon for support for the Mount Hood Express bus service, social services. Rich, go ahead.
Thank you, Gary. So this IGA is with the City of Sandy between and executed through social services. It provides staffing to support operations of the Mount Hood Express. And so I'll stop here just real quick. The Mount Hood Express is bus service between Sandy and up to Mount Hood, servicing the businesses up there, provides transportation for folks working up on the mountain, and also access for folks who are during the summer cycling, and then during the winter skiing. And so what this does is it provides facility rental for the bus services, shop supplies, vehicle use fees to address temporary fleet shortages. And so now Sandy and the county, and this is a very successful partnership, are now using a shared operations contractor to provide the direct services. And then the funding sources include local funds, and then 5311 FTA small rural transportation funds. You'll hear here that this is quite knitted. 5310 FTA funds, federal lands access funds, statewide transportation improvement funds, and state special transportation funds. So it takes a fair amount of work to put this all together to provide for these services.
Well, thank you for the effort on everybody who did this. I know this is really important to the citizens who live in the area and any of our travelers or skiers or cyclists. Do the commissioners have any questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
I move for approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Sandy, Oregon for support of the Mount Hood Express bus service.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Schrader and seconded by Commissioner Fisher. Any further discussion? Christina, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, and the motion is approved. Gary.
All right. Item 5, approval to apply for a continuation grant for the Oregon Department of Transportation 5310 Enhanced Mobility Funds through Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon, TriMet, for preventative maintenance and operations funding for Mount Hood Express, transportation reaching people, and transportation services to Boring. Rich, go ahead.
Thank you. So I will admit, social services is now going to begin to sound like a transit authority. And so we're seeking approval to apply for a grant to fund preventive maintenance and operations for the Mount Hood Express buses. They're vehicles operated by the TRP, TRIP program, and community-based transportation services in the Boring area. The Mount Hood Express, as I've talked about before, provides public transit services between City of Sandy, Government Camp, Timberline, and other locations up on the mountain, and increases access to medical social services for elderly and disabled residents. Match is provided through private contributions, special transportation funds, and there is no general fund involved in this.
Thank you. Commissioners have any questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Okay. I move for approval of agreement number 18854 with Ride Connection Incorporated to provide funding for vehicle maintenance of Ride Connection-owned vehicles operated by social services transportation reaching people and community-centered based transportation.
Excuse me, Commissioner, I think you're ahead in the script. That's
Oh,
the,
I'm
the
ahead of
next
the
item.
script, so I move for the continuation grant for Oregon Department of Transportation. Is that where we are, Gary?
Yes, yes.
I had put an X by it, and I thought I'd already done it, sorry. Okay. I move for approval to apply for a continuation grant for Oregon Department of Transportation 5310 Enhanced Mobility Funds through Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon, TriMet, for the preventative maintenance and operations funding for the Mount Hood Express transportation reaching people and transportation services to Boring.
Second.
Okay.
The motion has been made by Commissioner Schrader and seconded by Commissioner Fisher. Any other discussion? Christina, please call the poll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, the motion has been passed.
Item 6, approval of an agreement number 18854 with Ride Connection Incorporated to provide funding for vehicle maintenance of Ride Connection-owned vehicles operated by social services, transportation reaching people, and community center-based transportation. Rich, please go ahead.
Thank you. So this is pass-through funding to support vehicle maintenance for transportation services to assist older and disabled county residents in conducting personal business, grocery shopping, medical, and other appointments. This is funded through agreements with the State of Oregon and Elderly and Disabled Transportation Fund, and there is no general fund involved in this.
Commissioners have any questions or comments? May I have a motion?
I move for approval of agreement number 18854 with Ride Connection Incorporated to provide funding for vehicle maintenance of Ride Connection-owned vehicles operated by social services, transportation reaching people and community center-based transportation.
Second.
This has been moved by Commissioner Schrader and seconded by Commissioner Fisher. Any further discussion? Christina, please call the poll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, and the motion is approved. Gary.
Item 7, approval of agreement number 18862 with Ride Connection Incorporated to provide funding for dedicated dialysis rides provided by social services, transportation reaching people. Rich, go ahead, please.
Thank you. So again, this is pass-through funding to provide dedicated dialysis rides to assist older and disabled county residents with transportation to receive needed dialysis treatment. Oops. The agreement provides continuation funding for the portion of the rides that provided inside the TriMet district to areas that have been designated high equity need areas by the TriMet Transit Advisory Committee. And there are no general funds associated with this, and we do have 8,311 of SSD special transportation funds that come from STF funds, and those are used to match, and those are state funds.
Thank you, Rich. Do the commissioners have any questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Commissioner Smith, I move for approval of agreement 18862 with Ride Connection Incorporated to provide funding for dedicated dialysis rides provided by social services transportation reaching people.
Second.
A motion has been made by Commissioner Scholl and approved by Commissioner Fisher. Any further discussion? Christina, please call the poll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, and the motion has passed. Gary.
Item 8, approval of agreement number 18863 with Ride Connection Incorporated to provide funding for non-emergency medical rides provided by social services, transportation reaching people. Rich, go ahead.
Thank you. This agreement essentially is a mirror of the previous one that is a function for dialysis rides. So this again is pass-through funding to provide non-emergency medical rides for older and disabled county residents. So the population here is just slightly different than the previous one. So I'll stop there and see if there are any questions.
Thank you, Rich. Do the commissioners have any? Oh, yes, Commissioner Fisher, please continue.
So, Rich, I just want to ask about the volunteers that participate in this, and if this funding helps support the volunteers that do the transportation program.
Yes, it does. So one of the things, and thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner Fisher. So one of the things that we are actually dependent on is a cadre of volunteers who have been doing this for quite a while, who either drive the vehicles we supply or actually supply their own vehicles and show up and pick people up and take them where they need to go. And so this volunteer piece of what we do here is an essential connection for getting folks to their needed appointments.
Thank you for that clarification. Any further questions?
I've had the privilege of participating with the volunteer luncheon that I don't think we have one this year, but we have in years past.
Yes.
And to talk with the volunteers and the stories about connecting people with their rides. And often these people that have disabilities or are older residents don't have any other resources. So the connection that they receive during those rides are just really important. And so just wanted to put a personal face to this consent agenda item. So much important work is done through this, these funding mechanisms.
Thank you for your comments, Commissioner Fisher, and it's important, I think, that you added that. It gives a face and humanity to a lot of these items we're talking about today. Can I have a motion?
Chair Smith, I move for approval of Agreement 18863 with Ride Connection Incorporated to provide funding for non-emergency medical rides provided by social services, transportation reaching people.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Scholl and seconded by Commissioner Fisher. Any further discussion? Christina, please call the poll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
And Chair Smith?
Aye, and the motion has been approved. Gary?
Item 9, approval of agreement number 18892 with Ride Connection Incorporated to provide funding for rides provided by members of the Clackamas County Transportation Network. Rich, go ahead, please.
Okay, clearly the theme right now is transportation. So this is funding for rides for older disabled county residents that originate inside the TriMet service district provided by members of the Clackamas County Community-Based Transportation Network. TRIP utilizes funding to provide rides via volunteer drivers, as Commissioner Fisher highlighted, to medical appointments and to conduct personal business.
Thank you. Commissioners have any comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Chair Smith, I move for approval of Agreement 18892 with Ride Connection Incorporated to provide funding for rides provided by members of the Clackamas County Transportation Network.
Second.
The motion has been moved by Commissioner Scholl and seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Any further discussion? Christina, please call the poll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, and the motion has passed. Gary?
Item 10, approval of agreement number 18893 with Ride Connection Incorporated to provide funding for rides provided by the Social Services Division Transportation Reaching People Unit. Rich, go ahead, please.
Thank you. So clearly, we're on a roll here, no pun intended. Continued funding for FY 2021 to pay mileage reimbursement to volunteer drivers in the Ride Together program. A friend or a neighbor of a resident who is the elderly or disabled and who is willing to meet transportation needs can register with TRIP program to be reimbursed for approved mileage. And there is no general fund associated with this. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from commissioners? Can I have a motion?
Chair Smith, I move for approval of Agreement 18893 with Ride Connection Incorporated to provide funding for rides provided by the Social Services Division, Transportation Reaching People Unit.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Scholl and seconded by Commissioner Fisher. Any further discussion? Christina, please call the poll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, and the motion is approved. Gary?
Item 11, approval of agreement number 18896 with Ride Connection Incorporated to provide funding for rides provided by volunteer drivers under the Vets Drive Vets program. Rich, go ahead.
Thank you. Again, this is agreement with Ride Connection to provide continued funding to pay mileage reimbursement as before above, a stipend to volunteer drivers of the Vets Drive Vets program. The program is geared to assist veteran residents who are older or disabled with transportation services. And there is no general fund associated with this either.
Thank you, Rich. Do any of the commissioners have any questions or comments?
Chair, I just want
Yes.
to make a comment that I think this is such a valuable resource for our veterans. This county, I see Commissioner Fisher's nodding her head too. I know Commissioner Scholl is a veteran, but we are leaders. This county has had significant leadership in providing services across the board, not only with the transportation piece, but also with our community college. Clackamas Community College is recognized as one of the top colleges for veterans, and with the VSOs that we have here in our county. So I'm glad we're continuing to do that kind of a job for the people that have served our country.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. I agree with your comments. Any other comments? Christina, would you call the poll, please?
Oh, point of order, Chair, we need a motion.
We do need a motion before we vote on something, don't we? I'll entertain a motion.
Chair Smith, I move for approval of Agreement 18896 with Ride Connection Incorporated to provide funding for rides provided by volunteer drivers under the Vets Drive Vets program.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Scholl and seconded by Commissioner Fisher. Any further discussion? Christina, now we can have the poll.
Excellent. Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
And Chair Smith?
Aye, and the motion is approved. Gary?
Item 12, approval to apply for continuation grants for Oregon Department of Transportation Special Transportation Formula and statewide Transportation Improvement funds through Ride Connection Incorporated for services provided by members of the Community-Based Transportation Network for Clackamas County seniors and people with disabilities. Rich, please go ahead.
Thank you, Gary. So we're seeking approval to apply for continuation grants to provide funding for transportation services for older adults, 60 years and older, and/or individuals with disabilities residing in Clackamas County. The grant would provide funding for rural community-based network partners and for urban community-based partners for transportation services for individuals with limited or no access to public transportation. I'd like to point out that this original agreement was first approved by the Board of County Commissioners on November 24th of '99 and has been renewed biannually thereafter. So we've got quite a tradition in terms of the provision of this service.
Thank you, Rich, for clarifying that. Do the commissioners have any comments or questions?
Yes, Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Swift, how much money is involved in this?
So this is $861,368 in terms of revenue that we'd be applying for in terms of these continuation grants.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Can I have a motion?
Chair Smith, I move for approval to apply for continuation grants for Oregon Department of Transportation Special Transportation Formula, STF, and statewide transportation improvement funds through Ride Connection Incorporated for services provided by members of the Community-Based Transportation Network for Clackamas County seniors and people with disabilities.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Scholl and seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Any further discussion? Christina, would you please call the poll?
Yes, Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, the motion has been approved. Gary?
Item 13, approval for amendment number 3 of a revenue intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Human Services. Go ahead, please, Rich.
Okay, so now we're with the Clackamas Health Centers. We've moved out of social services and transportation. So this is a revenue agreement with Oregon Department of Human Services for health centers to provide job placement and job retention services for individuals with severe and persistent mental illness. This amendment adds $300,000 to a current $1 million contract for a max of $1.3 million. There is no general fund associated with this.
Thank you, Rich. Any questions or comments from commissioners? I'll entertain a motion.
Chair Smith, I move for approval of amendment number 3 of a revenue intergovernmental agreement with Oregon Department of Human Services.
Second?
It has been moved by Commissioner Scholl and seconded by Commissioner Fisher. Any further discussion? Christina, please call the poll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, and the motion is approved. Gary?
Item 14, approval for amendment number 2 to a provider participation agreement with Care Oregon for behavioral health services. Rich, go ahead.
Thank you. So it's important to note that this is a no max revenue agreement. So what this is establishing is a revenue agreement, fee for service with Care Oregon for health centers to provide behavioral health care services to patients whose health care plan is Care Oregon. The amendment reflects a risk corridor floor at correct percent of 70%. It was previously 80, so it expands, and I could get into some pretty intense technical healthcare terms here, but it actually opens up and expands the area of revenue that we can get for these services. And so I'll stop there and see if there are any questions.
Do commissioners have any questions or comments? I'll call for a motion.
Chair Smith, I move for approval for amendment number 2 to a provider participation agreement with Care Oregon for behavioral health services.
Second?
It has been moved by Commissioner Scholl and seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Any further discussion?
No, it's Commissioner Fisher.
Well, it was Commissioner Fisher. Beg your pardon.
Okay. About that.
Okay, it's been corrected. Thank you, Martha. Christina, please call the poll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, and the motion is approved. Gary?
Item 15, approval for amendment number 1 to a provider participation agreement with Care Oregon for behavioral health services. Go ahead, please, Rich.
Thank you. So again, this is a no max revenue agreement, and the focus here with this amendment is the amendment updates the supported employment services section. Health centers will provide these services in an evidence-based manner, culturally and linguistically appropriate clinical services, and strategies to help support mental health recovery.
Thank you, Rich. Any questions or comments from commissioners?
Chair Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Swift, does this have any impact on county personnel in terms of a requirement for new personnel?
No.
No, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Chair Smith, I move for approval for amendment number 1 to a provider participation agreement with Care Oregon for behavioral health services.
Second?
Thank you. It has been moved by Commissioner Scholl and seconded by Commissioner Fisher. Any further discussion? Christina, please call the poll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, and the motion has been approved. Gary?
Item 16, approval of amendment number 1 to a revenue contract with Trillium Community Health Plan Incorporated. Go ahead, please, Rich.
Sure. Actually, one thing I'd like to do, if I could back up for Commissioner Scholl, it's fine, you can call me Rich.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. My dad's still alive, and so he's still Mr. Swift, and so Rich is good for me.
Okay.
Let me address something regarding the question of staff. So this is a revenue agreement with Care Oregon. So this means that if we have a need for more services than we have the staff for, we could potentially hire more staff. These staff, though, are revenue-based, so they're paying for themselves. There's no county general fund going towards the provision of these services.
Okay, thank you.
So essentially, they're running like a business.
Okay.
So on this next one, which is Amendment Number 1 to the revenue contract with Trillium Community Health Plan Incorporated. So Trillium Community Health Plan Incorporated is the second collaborative care organization. The other one in this region is Health Share of Oregon. And so this is updating a revenue agreement we have with Trillium Community Health Plan for the Behavioral Health Division to provide behavioral health services, including crisis services, wraparound, care coordination, peer, and community-based services. And when I say by wraparound, that's sort of behavioral health lingo for essentially those services that allow someone with behavioral health issues, mental health issues, or addiction to be successful in the community. It could be case management, it might be management regarding housing. This amendment increases the total revenue agreement to $750,000 with Trillium Community Health Plan.
Thank you, Rich. Are there any comments or questions by commissioners? I'll entertain a motion.
Chair Smith, I move for approval of Amendment Number 1 to a revenue contract with Trillium Community Health Plan Incorporated.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Scholl and seconded by Commissioner Fisher. Any further discussion? Christina, please call the poll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savis?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, and the motion is approved. Gary?
Item 17, approval of an amendment number 13 to Intergovernmental Agreement number 159159 with the State of Oregon acting by and through its Oregon Health Authority for the operation and financing of community mental health, addiction treatment, recovery and prevention services, and problem gambling programs. Rich, please go ahead.
Thank you. This is a revenue agreement with the Oregon Health Authority for the Behavioral Health Division to finance and operate community mental health, addiction treatment, recovery, and prevention, and problem gambling treatment services programs in our county. This amendment adds $155,104.63 and increases the maximum value of the agreement to $13,794,369.75. And there are no county general funds associated with this, so I'll stop there.
Do commissioners have any questions or comments? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
Chair Smith, I move for approval of an amendment number 13 for Intergovernmental Agreement number 159159 with the State of Oregon, acting by and through its Oregon Health Authority for the operation and financing of community health, mental health, addiction treatment, recovery, and prevention services, and the problem gambling programs.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Scholl and seconded by Commissioner Fisher. Any further discussion? Christina, please call the poll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savis?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, and the motion is approved. Gary?
Item 18, approval to accept Oregon Department of Education grant award for coordinated enrollment for preschool Promise. Rich, please go ahead.
Thank you. So we're seeking approval to accept a grant award from the Department of Education for Clackamas Early Learning Hub to implement regional coordinated enrollment for preschool Promise program in Clackamas County. So this acceptance of this supports the Early Learning Hub work in managing coordinated enrollment for the Early Learning Preschool Promise and Head Start, Oregon Pre-K, and K-12 preschool programs. So we're focusing on, kiddos 2.5 into through kindergarten, and this is coordinating that effort, really to see if we can get some kids back in school and, back in the classroom.
Rich, how much is this grant for?
It's just $23,000.
Okay, $23,000. What's the criteria for receiving this grant?
You know,
You know
that's,
what? I didn't mean to put you on the spot
oh,
for
you're
that.
not, I can call in Adam
okay.
Freer if he's waiting.
Well,
so
I
if you
just,
want that.
because it's such a small amount, and the needs are so hugely.
They are.
Huge on it, but at least we're getting something.
We are just getting
Yeah,
something.
Thank you. That's all. Any other qualifying questions and comments?
I don't have Chair, I don't have a question, but just a comment that I think.
Yes, go
these are
ahead.
pretty significant, that all the data and research suggests that if we can get the children early, we can stave off significant problems later in life. And what I've been hearing from the business community, it isn't only just the preschool, but also daycare is becoming a big issue as well.
Well, I would think so, especially now and people trying to manage the care of their children, since a lot of these facilities are closed, and trying to manage their jobs and teaching them at home. It's extremely difficult now for a lot of people. Any other comments? I'll call for a motion.
Chair Smith, I move for approval to accept Oregon Department of Education Grant Award for Coordinated Enrollment for Preschool Promise.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Scholl and seconded by Commissioner Fisher. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Christina, would you please call the poll?
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, and the motion is approved. Gary?
So that is the final item from Health, Housing, and Human Services. Thank you very much, Rich. Outstanding job. There you go. That's right, yeah.
Thank you. There is one thing I would like to say, and I appreciate the applause. My staff helped put this together, so it was we knew that we wanted to move quickly. But I do apologize. We did have an additional item on here, which was the approval of home loan documents. We did discover there was an issue in one of the documents, promissory note, where there was a version control issue. We did not find that quick enough to get that change in. I do regret the bouncing back and forth on this particular agenda item. But we will be talking about this on Tuesday with the board.
Thank you, and thank you for being so diligent with us and patient today.
Oh, and I appreciate it. I was actually looking forward to coming up here and talk with you all.
Good.
The new board.
Well, excellent, and have a great weekend.
Oh, thank you. You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank
Gary, would
Rich.
you like to continue?
Yes, we're still on board discussion items. The next department is Technology Services. I'll invite Dave Cummings, who is the Director of Technology Services, and I believe Duke Dexter, who coordinates our Clackamas Broadband Exchange program. And they will both present the next item, which is item 1 for Technology Services, approval to amend the existing service level agreement with the City of Sandy for connectivity to the PIDIC in Portland. So Dave, are you going to start, please?
Absolutely. I'm Dave Cummings, the Director of Technology Services. Hi, Tootie. Good to see you back.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. We're a major dark fiber provider in the county and the region, and we're asking today to amend a service level agreement with the City of Sandy because they're internet service provider within Sandy for a connection, another connection into the pit talk. Now, if you ask, well, why is that important and exciting? Everybody buys internet service from somebody else. We as homeowners buy it from the local telecoms. Local telecoms buy it from the bigger guys that bring it into the Portland area. And the pit talk is the location where all this internet service comes into. So to be able to get into the pit talk and get that internet service so that you can sell it is very important, and we do it at a low cost because we've been able to partner with other entities to get a connection into the pit talk. So that's what we're asking for today, is to be able to amend the service agreement to sell more services, more fiber to SandyNet. Anything you want to add to that, Duke?
Yes, good morning. I think a couple pieces for Commissioner Scholl, Chair Smith, and everyone else. So Clackamas Broadband Exchange, or what we call CBX, is a part of technology services, but it's an enterprising program. And so this program itself carries itself year in, year out through revenue that we generate. So CBX does not take any funds from the general fund. So we operate the staff, trucks, space, electricity, everything we do is generated through revenue that we generate from leasing out connections. And that is the only service that we do provide, is connectivity between point A and point B. And so just to kind of clear all that up, make sure everybody understands that. And Dave is correct. So what we are looking at this particular point is back in, I think it was March of 2018, the city of Sandy wanted a connection between their location and the Pittock downtown, which is what they call an ISP hotel, or internet service hotel. Large channels of internet kind of traveling up and down the West Coast. You need to be able to get there to be able to tap into those services. And so we provide connectivity for the city of Sandy to get from that location, from their head in, down to the Pittock. They have one connection, they would like two. And that's what this amendment to their existing service level agreement addresses.
Thank you, Duke Dexter.
You're welcome.
Do we have any questions or comments from commissioners? Mr. Scholl.
What does it cost to do that to technology services, and what's the period of payback for that expense?
So are you meaning between, to be able to provide that transport down?
Yes, to provide that second link they're asking for, is that expensive?
So overall, so what we end up, it's a little bit, it's a little bit complex question, but initially back in 2010, we applied for a federal grant, and we received one for $11 million. Of that $11 million, $8 million actually went to the construction of the first 180 miles of dark fiber network throughout Clackamas County. That initial build ended in 2013. Since that time, we've expanded our network from 180 miles to 350 miles, where we kind of currently sit right now in fiber miles. Yes, we do pay salaries, we do pay maintenance fees and that kind of stuff. To maintain that network, overall our expenses, sit around $1.2 million per year. And then, yes, through our lease fees, we cover those expenses.
Okay, so there's no expense in this to the people of Clackamas County?
None.
Okay, thank you very much.
I would also like to make another comment on that is we do provide these dark fiber connections. The main benefit, or there's a lot of benefits out of it. It's an open access network, so both public entities and commercial entities can connect into this for transportation. And on a yearly basis, since we've created this network, public entities save on the low end roughly $1.5 million per year. Clackamas counties, we save about $100,000, or technology services to be more direct, saves about $100,000 per year by being able to utilize the CBX network.
I see. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I'd just like
Martha.
to comment too. I really want to thank both of you. We've worked with you for such a long time on these issues. And one of the things I'll comment on is that the National Associations of Counties has a whole initiative to expand broadband, particularly in underserved areas. So this is not just for our county. There is action like this going around across the United States, largely for those areas that are underserved at this point, because it's difficult to participate in a democracy if you don't have access, and now it's become pretty much essential. So that might be something we look at, and look at what the National Association of Counties is working on, and it actually is largely a rural initiative as well. So.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Schrader.
Okay.
Any other comments? I'll call for a motion.
Sorry, Commissioner Savas has his hand
Oh,
up.
Paul.
Comment, Chair Smith, I'd like to build on Commissioner Schrader's comments. Due to the change in administration and some of the NACO, National Association of County meetings that I've sat on, including yesterday morning, with the change of administration, there's going to be, and it has been actually, quite a bit of focus on providing more rural broadband and broadband services, even in the urban areas, to accommodate distance learning, remote medicine, and all the new needs as a result of that we've learned from COVID and so on. So we have, I think, some unique opportunities as broadband dollars are set aside in new funding, potential new funding package There is a layout for that. And I'm hoping maybe our unique status as a urban rural county with a reasonable population, that we might actually be a good fit for some of the grants out there. So I would really encourage that we direct staff at some point, not necessarily today, but to do what we can to look at that and bring in the best people we can to look at the grant opportunities and how we fit in those grant opportunities and what we can do with our lobbyists in Washington, D.C. to see if we can't bring in some dollars to provide services to our residents who have no access to broadband currently, or very inadequate access to broadband for remote learning and remote medicine.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Any other remarks? Dave?
I have one quick remark I'd like to make, and Paul, this is for you especially. We do have a excellent business plan coming up that should be done on March 19th.
Oh.
We contracted with a consulting firm, Uptown. They did the feasibility study and the business plan for the city of Hillsborough. That's going to be an ISP provider for their whole city. And also some counties and cities back east. So I'm pretty excited about that, and that'll give us some good direction on where to go and where to get this connectivity and how to do it over the years. So I just want to let you know it's coming.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great. I am looking forward to it. I do realize the models between the city provider and a county provider are quite unique. And what I mean by that is that cities are primarily more concentrated in a more local area, and it's much easier to serve a denser area when homes are relatively nearby, neighborhoods are denser and closer. But in the rural areas, that's where our big challenge is, and that because of the distance, the cost effectiveness of serving those individual residents is much higher, and is a huge challenge, not for just our rural portion of Oregon, but other rural portions of the country. So highly competitive, highly needed. So I think when we do our comparisons, we got to realize that the people we're trying to serve are not in a city tight environment as much as it is more on the rural side.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Any other comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Chair Smith, I move for approval to amend the existing service level agreement with the City of Sandy for connectivity to the Piddock in Portland.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Scholl and seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Any further discussion? Christina, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, and the motion is approved. Thank you, gentlemen, and it's good to see you again, Dave.
Very good to see you. Thank you.
Dexter, I don't think
Thank
we've
you.
met, but hello.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you very much. That ends the board discussion items, commissioners. While that was a little time consuming, I found that very helpful, at least on my perspective as staff. And so I'll chat with you, Chair, after this meeting, how you'd like to proceed in future meetings going forward. But thank you
Well,
to
I
the
think
staff.
it's important for an education component to anybody listening to know what we're doing.
Yes,
And where the money comes from, and a lot of this was non-general fund money, I assume.
absolutely.
And so we're able to leverage and secure grants from other jurisdictions, which I think is very important for our people to know.
Very
Thank you,
good.
Gary. Can you go ahead?
Yes, next is County Administrator Update, and that's me. I have some items for you today. First, Commissioners, during the board recess of the prior Board of County Commissioners between December 17th, 2020 and January 3rd, 2021, while the board was in recess, per County Code Appendix C-104, the County Administrator, who is me, is authorized to sign and approve contracts on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners. During the recess, I did sign 12 contracts on behalf of the board. They are published online already in the online business meeting packet. They were in your packet as well today. I will ask your permission, Chair, would you like me to read them for the record or leave it?
What do you want to do, Gary?
Commissioners, it's online, it's on the packet, it's right. Actually, if you don't mind, I would like to read it, so the
Well,
public knows.
if you want to read it, then go right
Fine,
ahead.
I'll be quick. For Health, Housing, and Human Services, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the University of Baltimore to accept a grant subaward for combating opioid overdose through community-level intervention initiative. This was a grant application for us to receive $207,000.
Wow.
Next, approval of an amendment number 3 to the intergovernmental agreements with Clackamas County Fire District Number 1, the City of Lake Oswego, and the Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue District for advanced life support emergency medical system integration. This is related to our ambulance services contract. There is a slight fee that we pay to these jurisdictions, which is entirely paid by ambulance franchise fees. So no general fund. And in fact, to start, none of these contracts I signed involve general funds, none of them. Third, approval of a sub-recipient agreement with Malala Hope to provide winter warming shelter services for houseless persons or families. This was $33,000 that we are giving to Malala Hope, and these are Federal CARES Act dollars. Next, approval of a sub-recipient agreement, emergency shelter grant funds with Greater Good Northwest to rapid rehousing assistance. This was $533,000, again, Federal CARES Act dollars that we are passing through to Greater Good Northwest. Next, approval of a sub-recipient agreement, emergency shelter grant funds with Northwest Family Services to provide shelter services. This was for $357,000, again, Federal CARES Act dollars that we are passing through to Northwest Family Services. Next, approval to apply to the Oregon Department of Transportation, Rain and Public Transit Division for FTA 5311, Rural Transportation Funds for COVID-related operations of the Mount Hood Express. So this was a grant application where if we're successful, we would receive $205,000 for the Mount Hood Express. Next, for Human Resources, Amendment number 3 to contract number 1571 with Mercer Health and Benefits, LLC, extending termination date of the contract to February 28, 2021, and adding $27,216.66 to the contract. The new total amount of the entire contract is $435,466. These are not general funds. These are paid through by the Employee Health Benefits Fund. So every employee pays a portion of their health benefits that comes back to the county to pay for this. Next, back to Health, Housing, and Human Services. Contract Amendment number 1 between Washington County and Clackamas County, extending the expiration date of an intergovernmental agreement to January 31st, 2021. This is for respite shelter related to COVID shelter. It is for a time extension only. There is no general fund involved. These are all state and federal CARES Act dollars. Next, approval of a contract with Durst Critter Incorporated to provide on-call temporary medical staffing services to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. This is an on-call contract to provide up to $1 million, which there's no general fund. It's entirely funded through CARES reimbursement from the state and public health state funds. Next, approval of a contract with Advantage Nurse Staffing of Oregon Incorporated to provide on-call temporary medical staffing services to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. Same situation, an on-call contract up to $1 million, funded by public health state dollars and eligible for CARES Act reimbursement from the state. Next, the same example, approval of a contract with 22nd Century Technologies Incorporated to provide on-call temporary medical staffing services to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic, an on-call contract for $1 million, using public health state dollars, no general fund, to be reimbursed by the state CARES Act reimbursement dollars. Finally, approval of Amendment number 2 to the Intergovernmental Agreement with Clackamas County Fire District Number 1 for medical direction. This is in relation to our emergency medical services contract with Clackamas County Fire District Number 1. There are no general funds involved. This adds, Amendment number 2, $72,000 to the contract for a total contract amount of $79,350, again, paid through by state and federal emergency medical services fund no general fund. Phew. So that's all that I signed on the board's behalf during your recess. If I may quickly comment, you've noticed staff and I have said a lot today, no general fund. Of the county's $1.2 billion budget, of that entire amount, only $134 million is general fund, which means it comes from property taxes. That's it. All the rest of the $1.2 billion budget are state or federal dollars that come directly to Clackamas County for a specific purpose. So when you hear the term no general fund, that means no property taxes were spent on those contracts.
Gary, thank you for that clarification. That's very important. And while commissioners took a break, it looks like you did not. And I want to thank you for your service on that. It's very important that you were able to do these items.
Thank you very much, Chair Smith. If I may, next I'll ask Chair if you could please announce the board's going to switch hats for the next item.
Yes, I will. I will now announce the board will recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District for the next matter.
Thank you, Chair. So, Commissioners, you did discuss this briefly at your issue session this Tuesday, and so I'm bringing it back with your permission to seek your approval to form a task force that the prior Board of County Commissioners did agree to move forward on this process. What it is for the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District, which recently completed a long 2-year process to revise the District Advisory Committee bylaws. It used to be called the District Advisory Board. It's now the District Advisory Committee. It is an advisory committee that advises the District Board, which you sit as, Commissioners, for the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. Part of the bylaw update includes the creation of 4 sub-areas within, namely, the unincorporated areas of Clackamas County, which are within the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. The sub-areas will help select who their representative from that sub-area will be on the District Advisory Committee. So what the prior District Board agreed is that we would form a very short-term task force of community members to advise the county on how to best form these sub-areas and create an equitable structure, not only for selecting these 4 representatives to the advisory committee, but also to create a forum for the sub-areas to seek input on park issues to provide to the committee. So we did do a public outreach campaign over the holiday break, which closed this Monday, and there were several applicants, and we are recommending all those applicants be appointed by you, Commissioners, on the District Board to serve really a 1-month process by the end of January to come up with a recommendation of what these sub-area appointments could look like. So I am recommending to move forward. Really, the request today is if you approve the following names I'm going to read. These are community members who have applied through a public process to serve on a task force to help advise the county on what a process could look like. These are not the actual appointments of the sub-area members. This is a task force to advise the board and staff on what the process could look like. The names of the community members are David Gilman, Molly Little, Anata Blackmar, Leslie Shirk, Grover Bornfeld, and Lindsay Friedman. So my recommendation, Commissioners, is that you approve these community members to serve on this advisory task force to complete their work by the end of January 2021.
Thank you, Gary, for that presentation. Do we have any comments or questions from commissioners?
Chair Smith.
Yes, if I may, Chair. Thank you, Gary. I think you did a brilliant job of laying out the recommendation. The task force will do their best, I'm sure, to move quickly. Ideally, we'll just add that as soon as their recommendation is completed, it will be reviewed by legal counsel. It will come back to the board of directors of NCPRD, ourselves, for final approval. And we can look at the actual language and the actual product and make any determinations, recommendations, or advances at that point in time. So this is not the end. This is actually the beginning, and I thank you all for supporting this. Thank you, Gary, for a wonderful layout. And if there's no other concerns or questions, I'm happy to make the motion for approval today.
Do we need a motion, Gary?
Yes, please.
It's not on my script.
I apologize for that, Chair, yes.
What does the motion look like? Do the other commissioners have a motion written?
No one has it in front of them. It could be that you move to approve the appointment of, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 6 community members' names that I read to perform.
Do
as
I hear a
subject.
motion for approval of the 6 community members' names as read by Gary Schmidt?
So moved.
Paul, and?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas has moved, and Commissioner Fisher has seconded the motion. Do I hear any discussion?
Commissioner Schull, did you have a comment? Were you going to say something?
Well, my question was, are these 6 task force members all residents of Clackamas County?
They are all residents of Clackamas County and within the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District boundaries that this would impact, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments? Paul, thank you for your work on this. I know you've been very instrumental in having this happen, and I know you're challenged today at home, and I really, really appreciate you sitting through this entire lengthy board meeting. With that in mind, I will have Christina call the roll.
Okay, Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
And Chair Smith?
Aye, and the motion has been approved. Gary, would you like to continue?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, if you wouldn't mind announcing the shift in the board now back to the Board of County
Yes, I
Commissioners.
will. Announce the board will adjourn as the Clackamas Parks and Recreation District and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners for the remainder of this hearing.
Thank you, Chair Smith. I have 2 more quick updates. Next, you discussed at your issue session this Tuesday about having evening business meetings going forward. You all agreed to do that, but you were not sure of which week of the month. So staff has done some research, and the week that all of you are available are the 2nd Thursdays of the month. I did send an email saying the 3rd Thursday, and I apologize, I was incorrect. It is the 2nd Thursday of the month that all of you have clear calendars. So I'm seeking your direction if you agree with that, or if you want to arm wrestle and encourage the others to change their calendars for the other months. But the 2nd Thursday is currently clear for all of your
Okay,
calendars.
the 2nd Thursday of the month for evening business meetings to allow the public who work during the day to have an opportunity to come, or any other activities they may be engaging in. Do we have any comments from commissioners? This is a new action being taken by this board, and it's one that I have heard of from the people in the community that they would like to see. And we're doing this so the public has more access to their elected leaders, so they can come forth and they can comment, they can add suggestions on how they think their county government would run, any other comments they would like to make.
No, I would just say that I welcome this shift, so I appreciate starting the new year with this option that will continue each month.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher.
So I don't think you need a motion, but you all agree, so we'll have evening business meetings the 2nd Thursday of each month. If you agree, I'd propose 6 p.m., which is times we've done in the past, and we'd start in February, so the first meeting would be Thursday, February 11th
Okay.
for the first evening business meeting. So we'll get it on the calendars, notify the public, and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
With that is my lengthy report, so thank you very much, and back to you, Chair Smith.
Well, thank you. We're going to start with Commissioner Communication, and I believe Commissioner Schrader is up first.
Well, thank you, Chair Smith. It's good to be here today. Happy New Year, everybody. I see Sherry Hall's in the audience, our county clerk. I know it's great to be back with Commissioner Fisher, be back with Commissioner Savas, and I would like to warmly welcome you, Chair, back, and Commissioner Scholl as a new commissioner. Good to be here with
Thank
you.
you.
I will miss my previous colleagues, but as you know, it's my job to respect the will of the people. And the will of the people were, Chair, that you were going to be Chair, and Commissioner Scholl, you were going to be with us today.
Thank you.
So thank you for being here. And that's going to lead into a little bit about some things I want to talk about that I hadn't anticipated, because I was very troubled, have been very troubled about what happened yesterday in Congress, and not the least of which personally was that the father of my children and grandfather of my grandchildren was there and had to, kind of hunker down, as did many of our members of Congress. And it made me think about the rule of law and how important the rule of law is for all of us. And the rule of law, in my mind, and I think we're all going to agree to this, is the most important element in any civil society. And as I thought about it, I found a quote from Dwight Eisenhower, who was one of our finest generals and president. And as you know, the architect of a successful D-Day under perilous circumstances, and who I believe really is down in history as one of our wisest presidents. And what he said was, the clearest way to show what the rule of law means to us in everyday life is to recall what has happened when there is no rule of law. And I believe yesterday in our Capitol, we saw certainly a flaunting, a beating up of civility and what our rule of law dictates for us in terms of our behavior towards one another. This is not about political party. This is not about political affiliation. That isn't the point here. The point is that we saw a disruption of the duty of Congress to push forward, and their duty to have a peaceful transfer of power. No matter who you voted for, our rule of law gives Congress the power to make sure that any transfer, that any movement to a new regime, a new president happens in this country peacefully and without rancor. And I think the thing that made me the most sad was the fact that I believe our current leader made remarks that inflamed folks who are already hurting, who are already worried, who have been led to believe that our election process was flawed. And I want to tell you that I don't think our election process was flawed or is flawed. I think it was a legitimate election. And I think it's our duty as public servants and as someone who has won elections and lost elections, that our job is to leave office, if that's what happens, gracefully and welcome the new people that take our place. That is not happening here. And the words that were spoken by our current sitting president, I think, were harmful. I think they were inflammatory. And I don't think that there's any place with what we're facing now in our world and in our county for that kind of flouting of the law or being inflammatory. We have enough to deal with COVID, with shrinking resources, with attempting to really be good stewards of the people and to respect our constituents, and I just did not see that yesterday. And I think I was even more troubled because I had talked to my daughter in England the other day, and she said to me, they are here I'm hearing, Mom, and she has a security background, and she said to me, Mom, they're saying there's going to be a coup. Okay, she actually said that. She said the network of security folks that she worked with, there was all this rumbling in Europe and in England that there was going to be trouble. And I said to her, oh, no, that won't happen here. Well, the disruption did happen. Now we have to put it behind us. We need to let Congress do its job. They did go ahead and accept the election of a new president and vice president. And it's our duty now to support the rule of law and the process that keeps us together as a civil society. And I just feel like I need to call her and said, well, you were right. I honestly think there was a movement to disrupt. And people don't need to be encouraged to disrupt anything. And that includes what's happening and what has happened in Portland as well. To me, it doesn't have anything to do with alphabet soup or what party you are, what organization you are. It's just not, it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. So I hope we can put this behind us. I hope that we will not see that kind of a behavior and attack on our police forces there, the people that keep us safe. I hope we will no longer see Congress being disrupted with the damage and death that ensued. So there's plenty of other things I could have been talking about, but I honestly, for the first time in a very long time, I was severely rattled the other day. And very, very heartsick. And I know that our commission is going to be a commission of collaboration and that we will support one another as we move forward. So that's what I have to say, and I think it's time to move on. We have so much work to do, particularly in the middle of a pandemic, and particularly as we recover from wildfires. So thank you, Chair.
And thank you, Commissioner Schrader, for those very heartfelt comments. And I think that needed to be said.
Thank you.
I really do. Up next, Commissioner Savas.
Thank you. And I want to thank my colleagues for their patience in the last few weeks here with my handicap, medical condition. I got my operation, so to speak, or my precision kind of a epidural shot in my lower back on Tuesday afternoon, and I'm hopeful here that the forecast of recovery here in the next few days or week here will go smoothly and as predicted. So I do thank you again for your accommodating my Zoom meeting here today and other accommodations to make up the difference. So that's appreciated. I appreciate Commissioner Schrader's comments. It was just I'm just without words yesterday watching the news into the evening and the impacts across the country. And I think that we have to, respect the rule of law, and we have to respect peace and understanding that we can actually do so much more and communicate so much better with peaceful protest, peaceful demonstrations, and do so with as much good knowledge and good fact as possible. And in the world of information as where we are today, and the abundance of mediums to communicate, we also have the abundance for a lot of misinformation, disinformation, whether it's intended, misintended, however. So we got to be really careful anymore, and to try to, if we don't understand one another, that maybe we just seek clarification as best we can so that we make sure that maybe even what was said, what was intended to be said. So I won't belabor this any longer, but I do know that whether it was comments made in the past few months or protest here in the Portland area in the past several months or whatever it not be, there's just a lot of misunderstanding, I think, and some obvious destruction and some obvious damage and impacts at a very terrible time due to a number of reasons: COVID, the death and loss of George Floyd and others, And so there's just been a lot of racial tension, tension to do to business and loss, and people not having their privileges, frankly, as a result of some of the lockdowns. So we've had a very strenuous year or so at this point, almost a year now, due to all of these things compounding around the same time. And I'm very hopeful that 2021 will be a much better year for all of us. So I won't go on very much longer other than to thank everyone again for their accommodation. I welcome my new colleagues on the commission. I look forward to doing really good work as best we can on behalf of all of our constituents on all of the things that we have before us. My only message or just clarification to the administrator this morning, or perhaps to the chair or both, is that our short discussion on Tuesday with the accommodations of our Zoom mixture of live meetings and trying to work in the dais, work in the room, and so on, if there'll be greater definition of what the safe way is to accommodate all of that and get the buy-in and recommendations from from Dr. President, from Philip Mason Joyner, from Nancy Bush, from all of our key staff on how we move forward into transitioning into some kind of normalcy in some kind of programmatic way, and to also to ensure that all the visitors that come to the county, whether they want to come to these meetings and speak or participate or watch, or whether they are our staff or their customers, that everyone is assured as safe as accommodation and compliance across the board. So all I know is that our discussion Tuesday was brief. I was a little bit long maybe, but brief, but my point then was that the last I heard that there were 2 commissioners allowed in the building at one time in our particular building because of spacing requirements. So I don't want to go into all those details, but I'm hoping that next week we'll have greater detail as to how we proceed in the weeks going forward in the safest way. And with that, I will conclude my comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chair Smith. Welcome, Commissioner Scholl. Welcome, Chair Smith.
Thank you.
Absolutely thrilled to begin a new year and to have a sense of new beginnings. I had a pretty remarkable and wonderful conversation with Dr. President this morning, so I echo Paul's request to have her come and speak to us. Hopefully she can do that on Tuesday, and if not Tuesday, on Thursday. I think we are closer to the end of this pandemic than I originally thought before speaking with her this morning. On a personal note, I also, my daughter is on the list. She lives in a congregate care group home type foster home setting for her vaccine and the people in her home, so I can rest assured that the distribution of the vaccine for the pandemic is happening, and that will be a very, very important tool in our toolbox. In the meantime, I want to urge our residents of Clackamas County, I want to urge my fellow commissioners, and of course I don't have to belabor this because I believe there is great commitment on preserving and promoting safety for all. I really want to make sure that we're following guidelines and that we are ever so vigilant as leaders, as people who set an example for our community. There has been so much sacrifice by so many. And I think I can speak for all of us when I mention the emails that we're receiving from very, very desperate parents, talking about children, I'm sorry, I might get a little emotional here, but who are depressed, a child threatening to take their pencil and poke their eyes, children that struggle with eating disorders, children that are suffering with the incredible isolation and the failure of comprehensive distance learning. Excuse me, Commissioner Schrader, Chair Smith. I'll wait till you're finished.
No, I was supporting your opinion.
We're supporting your,
You were
yeah.
supporting your comments.
Okay, well, it's just very distracting to have a side conversation while.
Sorry. I apologize.
Okay.
Apologize.
So I just want to urge our elected leaders, I want to urge the governor, I want to urge our public health department. Our role at Clackamas County is simply to review the plans from our school districts and advise. We do not have any role in controlling opening our schools. But please, 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 for all of us, can we all be ever so vigilant to keep the numbers down of COVID? We have not seen the surge from the holidays. Right now, we've had a sort of a little bit of a flattening, but it's expected we will see another surge with the holidays in a couple weeks here. So please, 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 let's do all we can so that our children can go back to school safely, that our teachers, the staff, the educational assistants can be there in support of as safely as possible. We are on the tail of this vaccine. Let's do all that we can, as vigilantly, as compassionately. The actions we take truly save lives, and it's critical that we show the leadership that will protect our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, Chair Smith, fellow commissioners, county staff, and the residents of Clackamas County who are watching this meeting this morning, and all the businesses of Clackamas County. In the first few months of the year, I am going to strive to meet with as many CPOs, mayors, business organizations, civic organizations as I possibly can. And I encourage you to contact me at mscholl@clackamas.us, and I will strive to get out to meet with everybody and anyone, no matter how young or how old, no matter how rich or how poor, and irregardless of your political persuasion. I am your new commissioner, and I'm here to work with everyone. And I mean everyone out of the 430,000 people. So don't hesitate to contact me, and if I don't hear from you, you're going to hear from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl and Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner Fisher, you make some very important points about our education in our schools. As a matter of fact, I'm going to continue on that series of emails that we received. And we received an email from a constituent, Kirsten Kane, and she cites the national health authorities and organizations. For instance, UNICEF said, UNICEF urges governments to prioritize opening. Thank you. I'm going to read some emails from Kristen Kane, a constituent in Clackamas County. She says, UNICEF urges governments to prioritize opening schools. WHO, the World Health Organization Director of Health Promotion, says schools can safely open. And these are very long emails, and I'm not going to read them all, but if anybody listening out there wants these, we can certainly forward those to you. The Oregonian has called on January 3rd, 21, to open our schools safely. It's less likely that they will contact COVID with their classmates. USA Today likewise has offered opening up the schools as our students are struggling. NBC News did a report. The USC Health Policy and Economics says there is an absolute decline in our quality of education because our students are not receiving all the education components that they need. A letter from Michigan pediatricians that in-person learning should be undertaken with the highest urgency, and that means getting kids in schools with their teachers. Joseph Allen, the director of the Healthy Buildings Program at Harvard School of Public Health, wrote a 62-page plan with a dozen colleagues listing steps that schools could take to reduce transmission risk and as opening up our schools. And I wish dearly that our state leaders would take a look at these recommendations that have been made by the highest sought-after organizations in America. I do believe we can safely open up our schools. And with that in mind, later this afternoon, I will be doing a video, a public service announcement about the status of the vaccine in Clackamas County, how many is coming in, what's going to be available, and just a point of clarification, because I know all the commissioners have been receiving requests on emails and telephone calls. When do I get the vaccination? When do I, I'm high priority, I'm 80 years old, and don't I get the vaccine now? Well, unfortunately, there is a pecking order, so I will clarify that later today. But with that in mind, I have another few commissioner comments. Yesterday, this Board of County Commissioners, along with the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners, was able to pick a Senate replacement for departing Shamia Fagan, who has now been elected Secretary of State. And that was just a wonderful opportunity to sit down with our colleagues from our commissioners to the south, to the north of us, and get their comments about who would be replacing Senator Shamia Fagan. And that designation, by unanimous vote, went to Casey Jama. And I consider this man to offer up a voice to the citizens of his Senate district, which is 75% in Multnomah County and 25% in Clackamas County. He's going to be able to offer a voice to the people who've not had a voice. He has also said that he would be quite collaborative in his approach to lawmaking, and he has agreed to reach across the aisle and try to listen to all opinions, as I think all of us want to do. Concurrently, Clackamas County Commissioners will get a chance to appoint another Senate vacancy of departing Senator Alan Olson from Senate District 20. His resignation takes effective January 10th, and then we will have within a 30-day time period to pick his replacement, and that should be as fun as well. Additionally, we will have our own inauguration on January 13th at 3:30 outside here in the courtyard between the two buildings for incoming commissioners Martha Schrader, Mark Scholl, and myself. We will give speeches. There will be limited capacity in keeping with the COVID regulations, and participants will be wearing masks and distancing requirements and hand washing and all that wonderful thing. I have decided that outside would be best for this, as it's in fresh air. Wind will be blowing, and we can spread out and keep our distance, I think, more safely than we can on the inside. With that in mind, seeing no further comments, commissioners, thank you for having a 2-hour commission meeting today. You've all been troopers. This has been my first attempt at chairing, and I want to thank you all for your support.
Thank you.